Debuting in 1989 short film A Grand Day Out, Wallace and Gromit, the blundering eccentric inventor, and his clever mystery-solving dog instantly became icons of stop-motion claymation in less than a decade, cementing themselves as true British legends, beloved globally. In 2024, Aardman Animation's favourite duo turn 35, and to celebrate, I will explore their inception, history, and evolution over time. In this edition of Cartoon Evolution. Aardman Animation emerged in 1972, a joint venture between friends Peter Lord and David Sproxton, who had dreams of making their own animated films. Through their low-budget home studio in Bristol, England, Lord and Sproxton began crafting small stop-motion animations for trailers and television bumpers. Within a few short years, their work was prominently featured on various BBC programmes, and by 1980, their original character, Morph, a plasticine creation brought to life via stop-motion claymation, was headlining his own BAFTA-nominated BBC children's television series. Aardman had caught the attention of young artist Nick Park, who was captivated by their work on BBC's Morph, Vision On, and Animated Conversations, an adult comedy series. Studying animation at the National Film and Television School, or NFTS, in Beaconsfield, Park had chosen claymation as his preferred medium, largely inspired by their works. In 1982, for his final year project, Park was developing a short film titled A Grand Day Out, focusing on a British bloke and his pet who build a rocket ship in their basement and take a trip to the moon to collect cheese amidst a British cheese shortage. Initially, Park's characters, named Wallace and Gromit, were a man with a moustache and a cat. Park had been drawing these characters in notebooks for years and had finally found a vehicle to utilise them. During conceptual stages, the characters went through some major evolutions. Wallace's moustache was removed and he was turned from a normal bloke into an eccentric inventor. Gromit, on the other hand, would become a dog during test animation, as Park found that dogs were easier to make into clay models. Park wrote a letter to British actor Peter Sallis, best known for his role in BBC's Last of the Summer Wine and Doctor Who, asking him to voice Wallace. Surprisingly, Sallis agreed, accepting a £50 salary. Park also reached out to Lord and Sproxton, inviting them to NFTS to give a tour. They agreed. On their visit, the animators made effort to take a look at student projects, finding a particular interest in Park's Grand Day Out. By this point, a year into production, Park had only animated some tests and early footage. They were so impressed with it, however, that they offered him paid work over the next 2 summer holidays. By 1985, Aardman had expanded, bringing in a swarm of large-scale commercial commissions, including an elaborate short for Channel 4 called Babylon, an ahead-of-its-time music video for Peter Gabriel's upcoming single Sledgehammer, and inserts for Pee Wee Herman's latest adventure, Pee-wee's Playhouse. Park, on the other hand, was still toiling away on A Grand Day Out. In 3 years, he'd only completed 7 minutes of animation, less than a third of its final 23-minute length. Of that was the 3-minute rocket building sequence, which alone took a year and a half to complete. Worse yet, Park was broke and on benefits. His grant from the university, who was funding the film, had depleted, and he couldn't graduate until complete. Lord and Sproxton, in desperate need of staff to fill their new studio workshop, made Park an offer he couldn't refuse: full-time employment as an animator and assistance in finishing his film in spare time. Park called the offer a godsend, but with Aardman growing so incredibly busy, A Grand Day Out had to take a back seat. Park said that his sets and figures sat in that corner for a year before he returned to work on it. It took another 4 years to complete, and in that time, Park directed and animated his own 5-minute short for Aardman, Creature Comforts. Both films completed around the same time, premiering together at the Bristol Animation Festival in November 1989. Both were received incredibly well, and Channel 4 bought Grand Day Out from the NFTS. They aired it on Christmas Eve 1990, commencing an enduring Christmas tradition with the characters in Britain. A Grand Day Out was like almost nothing seen before in claymation. It was fresh, innovative, inventive, and full of magic. Park brought a life and soul to his characters rarely seen in the art form, crafted both understated and hilariously over-the-top gags, and fashioned abnormally intricate and free-flowing animation. Legendary stop-motion innovator Ray Harryhausen told Park that he'd never seen claymation so smooth, while Monty Python's resident animator and filmmaker Terry Gilliam gushed about Park's work on TV, declaring, "Nick Park should be made God tomorrow." The film, along with Creature Comforts, naturally solidified Aardman and Park as industry leaders of the art form. The characters of Wallace and Gromit, though in somewhat primitive basic designs, came out almost fully fleshed. An animated odd couple pairing a well-meaning eccentric buffoon in the Jerry Lewis mold, whose inventions often cause more harm than good, with a silent but intelligent straight man, a Charlie Chaplin in a dog suit, who always seems to begrudgingly save the day. A Grand Day Out went on to win the inaugural Best Animated Short Film Award at the BAFTAs, and was nominated in the same category at the Academy Awards. Grand Day Out was defeated for the Oscar, though Park didn't seem to mind, as the winner was none other than Creature Comforts. Ironically, the film that took Park 7 years to complete was beaten by one that took him only a few months. Not long after the film's grand success, the BBC approached Aardman about the possibility of more Wallace and Gromit adventures. Aardman were thrilled, but they first had to secure character rights from the NTFS, while BBC had to acquire A Grand Day Out from Channel 4. With this business out of the way, Aardman and the BBC began prepping a sequel, The Wrong Trousers. Now, with the backing of the Beeb, Aardman were given a £650,000 budget, nearly 60 times larger than A Grand Day Out, budgeted at a mere £11,000. Park mostly made A Grand Day Out by himself, but was now afforded a crew of 10 people, with animation duties shared between Park and Steve Box. The Wrong Trousers clocked in at 29 minutes, 6 minutes longer than A Grand Day Out, and overall ended up a much more elaborate, expansive, and intricate film, with sharper writing and humour. Where A Grand Day Out was a small-scale sci-fi comedy, Wrong Trousers was an extravagant comedy crime thriller inspired by vintage film noirs and the works of Alfred Hitchcock, most notably his 1927 silent British classic, The Lodger. The story, however, was taken directly from one of Park's old student sketchbooks. The Wrong Trousers sees a wanted criminal, a penguin named Feathers McGraw, taking up lodgment in Wallace's home. As Gromit grows weary of Feathers, the penguin wreaks havoc, hijacking Wallace's new invention, a pair of mechanical techno trousers designed to take Gromit on walks, in effort to dissuade them from foiling his plan of stealing a diamond from the City Museum. The film concludes with a chase sequence so astoundingly complicated that industry veterans still question how it was pulled off. The film's large budget also allowed Wallace and Gromit visual overhauls, with the characters now taking on cleaner, more refined designs. Narratively, they were more fleshed out as characters, with their relationship further defined. Wallace became more bumbling and awkward, while Gromit more sophisticated. Character animation was also made more sophisticated, with the silent Gromit, in particular, allowed a complex pathos. His animation was so good, you could actually see him thinking. Matt Groening, creator of The Simpsons, deemed The Wrong Trousers mind-blowing, calling Feathers McGraw one of the greatest villains of all time. The New York Times critic Stephen Holden said the film offered everything one wants from a half-hour cartoon: sharply defined characters, a story that is clearly told, many light, joking touches, and endless technical ingenuity. The Wrong Trousers premiered at the Annecy Film Festival in June 1993, and then screened at Venice Film Festival to standing ovation. It premiered widely on BBC Two on Boxing Day, December 26, 1993, preceded by an airing of the BBC's newly acquired Grand Day Out on Christmas Day. The film was, likewise, a gigantic hit with audiences and critics, and was acclaimed with over 40 top international awards. It again won the BAFTA for Best Animated Short Film, and this time also took home the Oscar. Accepting the award in a large, garish bow tie, Park sparked one of the most memorable and somewhat infamous Academy Awards moments of the 1990s. Naturally, Wallace and Gromit were now a commercially successful brand, and Aardman formed a sales team to supervise the marketing, rights, and worldwide sales. Merchandise flooded out, and the characters were soon appearing in various brand partnerships. A third Wallace and Gromit adventure naturally followed too. A Close Shave. With Aardman now given a £1.3 million budget from the BBC, they were afforded a crew of over 40 artists and were able to finish the film in record time, only 18 months. Park oversaw the large crew, making sure the film retained an intimacy instead of feeling like an industrial product. With this new, daunting task, Park could barely animate any of the film himself. A Close Shave, a thrilling action-adventure melodrama, was even more grandiose than Wrong Trousers. Here, Wallace's new invention, the Knit-O-Matic, designed to shear sheep and knit a jumper from their wool, is at the centre of the adventure, which sees the duo the target of a nefarious plot, resulting in Gromit being framed and sent to prison. The film features a lavish prison break, a large-scale automobile chase, and an epic aerial dogfight. It also introduced 3 new characters: an evil robot dog, Preston, a love interest for Wallace, Gwendoline Ramsbottom, and the soon-to-be legendary Shaun the Sheep. Though chaotic and over-the-top, a stellar screenplay made it one of the greatest adventures ever put to film. Third time was absolutely the charm, as audiences were enraptured by A Close Shave when it premiered on BBC Two on Christmas Eve 1995. The duo were instantly solidified as British icons, and the network even debuted a new bumper featuring them, which aired between programs. A Close Shave won over 30 awards, again including the BAFTA and the Oscar. To coincide with the release of A Close Shave, North Yorkshire's Wensleydale Creamery released a special cheese featuring the characters on the packaging. In Close Shave, Wallace calls Wensleydale his favourite cheese and had mentioned it previously in A Grand Day Out. It was a natural partnership and one of the characters' first major licensing deals. The promotion was so successful, tens of thousands of units sold quickly, resulting in a gigantic spike in Wensleydale's sales, inadvertently saving the company from a near bankruptcy. Wensleydale still sells Wallace and Gromit branded cheese to this day, and even stocks a wide variety of Wallace and Gromit merchandise in their store. In 1997, a Wallace and Gromit stage show, Wallace and Gromit Alive on Stage in A Grand Night Out, premiered on the West End. It ran until 1998 and told an original story, seeing actors portraying the duo in elaborate costumes. It also featured appearances from Shaun the Sheep and Gwendoline Ramsbottom. It's unknown if a pro shot of the show exists, though several promotional images do. A few years ago, a 1997 Blue Peter interview with Park was discovered, featuring a live demo of the show's turbo trousers. In 1999, Aardman entered into a $250 million 12-year, 5-picture deal with DreamWorks Animation, the first of which would be 2000's Chicken Run. The next proposed feature, The Tortoise and the Hare, was cancelled during production, putting Aardman's entire workforce out of work. In an effort to get artists back on the job and train many of them as directors for the upcoming film productions, Park & Co. devised Wallace and Gromit's Cracking Contraptions, a series of 10 1 to 3 minute short Wallace and Gromit films that would showcase Wallace's many zany inventions. This also fulfilled a demand from Japanese broadcasters who wanted more Wallace and Gromit content. The shorts first debuted on the BBC website in October 2002, before airing on BBC One over that Christmas. They would later be combined, aired, and released as a 25-minute compilation. 3 years later, Wallace and Gromit's debut feature, The Curse of the Were-Rabbit, was released. The film sees the mind manipulation-o-matic, Wallace's most elaborate invention yet, backfiring dangerously, wrongly using the machine on a group of rabbits to brainwash them into disliking vegetables, a pest control effort, an error instead results in Wallace being turned into a monster by night, a Were-RabbitA. Inspired by classic B-movie body horrors, Curse of the Were-Rabbit leans into a darkly funny horror adventure. Produced for DreamWorks on an exorbitant £23.4 million budget, the movie was entirely shot in the UK, though moulded to suit the tastes of American audiences, with DreamWorks fearing the property was too British. Such changes saw the film retitled from The Great Vegetable Plot, as it was feared that the word vegetable was unappealing to American children, the British humour being toned down, and Wallace's vocal patterns made more even, understandable and clear. Overall, not huge compromises, but enough to strain the Aardman-DreamWorks relationship, which was abandoned soon after the film's release. The movie opened to strong reception in early October 2005 and actually performed better at the American box office than in Britain. However, DreamWorks still weren't impressed by its $193 million global takings, hoping it would outperform Chicken Run's $227 million global. Regardless, Curse of the Were-Rabbit remains the second highest grossing stop-motion animated film in history and a fan favourite 20 years later. The film won over 40 awards, including the BAFTA for Outstanding British Film, the BAFTA Children's Award for Best Feature Film, and the Oscar for Best Animated Feature Film. In 2007, Aardman launched the first Wallace and Gromit spin-off, Shaun the Sheep, a short-form TV sitcom starring a close shaves breakout star. Shaun had become popular over the last decade in external media and merchandise, becoming a global fashion icon after Emma Bunton, aka Baby Spice of the Spice Girls, was seen wearing a Shaun the Sheep backpack in a widely syndicated photograph, which prompted an immediate sellout of the item. The idea for the series had spawned during the same period as Cracking Contraptions, though took some time to get off the ground, as the premise grew larger and more elaborate. The BBC series, designed for school-aged children, charts the misadventures of Shaun and his flock on the Mossy Bottom farm. It drew heavy inspiration from classic 1970s prison set British sitcom Porridge, and leaned heavily into Charlie Chaplin-esque silent slapstick. Likewise, produced in stop motion, Shaun the Sheep quickly grew global popularity. The franchise is currently comprised of 178-minute episodes across 6 television seasons, 2 feature-length theatrical films, 2015's Shaun the Sheep movie, and 2019's A Shaun the Sheep Movie Farmageddon, 2 half-hour Christmas TV specials, 2015's Farmer's Llamas, and 2021's The Flight Before Christmas, and 2 collections of 1-minute short films, 2012's Shaun the Sheep 3D, and Champion Sheeps. Shaun has also seen its own spin-off series Timmy Time, starring the youngest member of Shaun's flock. Timmy Time, aimed at preschoolers, ran for 80 10-minute episodes across 3 seasons between 2009 and 2012, likewise spawning 2 half-hour television specials, 2011's Timmy's Christmas Surprise and 2012's Seaside Rescue, as well as a 2018 web series Learning with Timmy, a rebooted version of the main program It's Timmy Time, featuring cut-down versions of episodes aired in 2009. Wallace and Gromit, on the other hand, weren't away from the screen for long. In 2008, Aardman released their next short adventure, A Matter of Loaf and Death. Following the dissolution of the DreamWorks deal, Park wanted to return to his characters on his own terms, reverting them to their true British heritage. At the time of release, Park said, "I don't feel like I'm making a film for a kid in some suburb of America and being told they're not going to understand a joke or a northern saying. It was only natural that the film would take its title from the most beloved British film in history, 1946's A Matter of Life and Death." The short sees Wallace and Gromit operating a bakery as they find themselves wrapped up in a murder plot when a serial killer starts targeting bakers. While Wallace finds himself entangled with the killer, a newly introduced love interest, Paella Bakewell, Gromit takes it upon himself to solve the case. The film cost £3 million, with production values amped up like no Wallace and Gromit short before. A Matter of Loaf and Death premiered on BBC One on Christmas Day 2008 2008 and pulled in 14.5 million viewers. Not only the most watched show in the UK on Christmas Day, but the most watched of the year. It likewise went on to win the BAFTA, continuing an incredible streak. 2 years later, Wallace and Gromit returned to short-form entertainment with 2010's Wallace and Gromit's World of Invention. The series was made up of 6 half-hour episodes, predominantly live-action educational films covering various real-life contraptions, inventions, and scientific accomplishments. Each of the films were presented by Wallace and Gromit in newly animated bookends. The series marked the final time Peter Sallis voiced Wallace before his retirement. Supported by a widespread web campaign, the series went on to win the first ever BAFTA for new media. Over the years, Wallace and Gromit have found a second life in external media. They have appeared in numerous television commercials and brand partnerships with the likes of Renault, PG Tips Tea, Red Nose Day, which saw the debut of the infamous Gromit mug, N-Power Energy Efficient Solutions, Marks & Spencer's in a much beloved Christmas promotion, HMV in an elaborate promo which saw Gromit replacing the iconic Nipper dog on the store's logos across the UK for 3 months, Google Hangouts, Visit England in a groundbreaking UK tourism campaign, the British National Trust, where they helped celebrate the Queen's Diamond Jubilee, and DFS in a trio of spectacular television commercials, one of which was naturally set at Christmas time. Likewise, Shaun the Sheep featured in a promotional campaign for Visit England and the 2015 Rugby World Cup held in England. The duo have also starred in a number of video games for various platforms, all of which depicted them in computer animation, including 2003's Project Zoo, 2005's The Curse of the Were-RabbitA tie-in, 2009's Wallace and Gromit's Grand Adventures, 2021's augmented reality VR game The Big Fix-Up, and its 2023 follow-up The Grand Getaway. They've also starred in numerous comics, including a 26-issue comic magazine between 2005 and 2007, and a 52-week, 312-installment comic strip for the Sun newspaper between 2010 and 2013. Wallace and Gromit have become so iconic, they've even featured on Royal Mail stamps and Royal Mint coins. Numerous exhibitions and attractions have spread their adventures across the globe too, including 2009's A World of Cracking Ideas UK Science Exhibition, 2012's World of Invention Science Exhibition, which toured Australia, 2012's Wallace and Gromit's Musical Marvels concert held at the Royal Albert Hall for BBC Proms, and the Sydney Opera House, which featured a performance of masterful classical music accompanied by newly animated sequences, 2013's Thrill-O-Matic theme park attraction at Blackpool, UK's Pleasure Beach, 2018's Wallace and Gromit and Friends The Magic of Aardman exhibition at the Acme in Melbourne, Australia, 2020's Aardman A Grand Experience interactive attraction alongside Shaun the Sheep at Land's End in Cornwall, England, and the A Grand Way Out escape room, which opened in Bristol, England in 2022. Shaun the Sheep has also appeared in numerous attractions, including Shaun the Sheep Land at Skane's Djurpark Zoo in Sweden, and the Shaun the Sheep Brunch Cafe in Tokyo. In 2024, however, 14 years after A Matter of Loaf and Death, Wallace and Gromit returned to screens in a grand way, with their second feature-length film, Vengeance Most Fowl. Designed as a direct follow-up to The Wrong Trousers, the film sees the return of Feathers McGraw, as the diabolical villain is freed from prison and vows revenge on the clumsy inventor and his sleuthy canine companion, hijacking Wallace's new smart gnome in evil mode. Notably, it's the first major Wallace and Gromit production to feature Ben Whitehead as the voice of Wallace, having voiced him in external media since the retirement and subsequent passing of Sallis. At the time of this video's publication, Vengeance Most Fowl is yet to be released widely, but has met universal acclaim from press and festival screenings, debuting to a 100% critic score on review aggregator Rotten Tomatoes. The film is also currently nominated for the Best Animated Picture at the 2025 Golden Globes and is shortlisted for nomination in the category at the Oscars. The film is set for a limited theatrical release in the US on December 18, 2023, will premiere in the UK on Christmas Day on BBC One, and will release on Netflix internationally on January 3, 2025. 35 years on, it's clear that there is no stopping Wallace and Gromit. While they may be inherently and iconically British, there's no doubt this comedic duo will continue to remain global superstars. And at that, I want to hear your thoughts on Wallace and Gromit. What is your favourite Wallace and Gromit adventure so far, and what would you like to see them star in next? As always, join the conversation down below.